A group of samurai band together to take down a ruthless lord for the good of the people, despite being vastly outnumbered. Sound cool? Because I'm here to talk about 13 Assassins from 2010. So, this film was directed by the legendary Takashi Miike, one of Japan's most popular and prolific directors. I've never reviewed any of his films yet, at least, so I'll just talk about him for a minute. Starting his directing career at the beginning of the 1990s, he began by directing videos after he completed film school. Once he got the ball rolling, the man just never stopped. He moved on to martial arts films and, like many famous Japanese directors did. At this point, he's just done it all. TV shows, action stuff, Yakuza films, and of course, horror. In the US, at least, I feel like horror is what he's, become most known for, with genre classics like Audition, Ichi the Killer, and One Missed Call. I'm a big fan of his horror stuff. I find it weird that I'm starting here. It wasn't intentional, but yeah. His style embodies Japanese horror and is typically not for entry-level horror fans. 13 Assassins was actually only the second non-horror film of his that I've seen so far, and I was really impressed. This movie it's just fantastic. And I actually didn't know that it was a remake of a 1963 film of the same name. Sorta. The original is called The 13 Assassins, but I've never seen it, so I won't be comparing the two. I grew up watching martial arts films, but I'd never seen any of the, many, samurai films, which is almost like a subgenre unto itself. I do own Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, but I haven't watched it yet. I know, my bad. I'll get to it, I promise. I'd say that I chose a decent starting point, and I'd recommend this to anyone looking to get into this kind of stuff. I wish I could talk at length about the cast here, but sadly, I can't. I've seen a good handful of Japanese films over the years, but not enough to be familiar with the cast. That said, it's an incredible cast. At first I felt overwhelmed because there are a lot of characters here, and since a lot of them are samurai, they wear the same clothes and even have the same haircuts. That's why it was tough for me. Not the reason that you think. And since I mentioned samurai all having the same haircuts, it's because it allowed their helmets to fit better and also so that they wouldn't overheat. Japanese people have always been ahead of the curve. I thought I would just mention that because I happened to, while I was watching this movie, I looked it up. So I'm like, what's with the haircuts, guys? They're silly looking and they all have the same one. So I was like, is it like the monk, and the monks have that, their haircuts. I kind of thought maybe it was that, like a religious thing, but no, it's literally just for their helmets. So this film takes place in 1844, not too long before the end of Japanese feudalism and the Edo period, which would also be the end of the samurai, the end of an era. This aspect actually reminds me of the American director Sam Peckinpah with his 1969 film The Wild Bunch, which was about the end of the era of the outlawed gunslingers. And I got Peckinpah vibes just in general here, along with Quentin Tarantino vibes. And Tarantino took inspiration from Kurosawa, and I imagine Takashi Miike did too, especially being a Japanese guy. How could you not? So like a full circle of influences here, and I love it. And Miike definitely puts his own spin on this. There are some scenes here that are so Miike and his own unique style. The man is definitely a leader, not a follower, even with this being a remake and all. Back to the story, which is quite political. So Lord Naratsugu is the leader of the Akashi clan and has been taking full advantage of his power, creating much concern with the people of Japan. He is a sadistic tyrant and an absolute sociopath, just torturing and killing both nobles and peasants just purely for pleasure. And he's protected by his half-brother, who happens to be a shogun, which was a name for a class of military rulers of the time. As he rises to power, it is obvious to other clans that something needs to be done about this guy in order to keep, order among the people. And I gotta give the actor that plays him full credit because he is just so unlikable. Yeah, he did a really good job. You hate this guy just as you should. And with all the enemies that Naratsugu has been making, things are headed for a potential civil war, leading to unrule and chaos. And since the Shogun refuses to follow protocol and punish Naritsugu, God, what a pure political mess, just like it is nowadays. Anyways, Sir Doi Totsitsura takes matters into his own hands. He hires Shimada Shinzaemon, a legendary samurai, to assassinate Naritsugu. Shinzaemon is played by Koji Yakusho, and he is my favorite character here, and it's just a great, great performance. I know I'm a noob, but I believe that he just embodies everything that a samurai should be. The code of honor, the discipline, and just completely devoting his life to the true ways of the samurai, willing to die for what is right. So he brings together 10 more samurai, all hand-chosen, to help him on his quest, along with a ronin, which was like a solo samurai, one with no master. So that's a total of 12 samurai, and along the way they meet a hunter in the forest. A man who was exiled from his village, who offers to help guide them through the forest in exchange for some food. They don't want him fighting alongside them because samurai like to stick together, but he insists on it, and turns out he's a huge help. And Kiga actually reminds me of Stephen, the Irish guy from Braveheart, which was cool and gave some variety to our group of warriors here. He fights with sticks and rocks and slings and basically just anything he can get his hands on, and he's just a really funny, likable guy. So when Shinzaemon learns that they will be facing 70 men, it is unlikely that many, if any of his men, will survive this battle. But that is the way of the samurai, to do what is right even if you have to give your own life. And let me tell you, you really feel it with these guys, and it's so infectious. You just want to pick up your sword and join them, Naritsugu is just such a fucking scumbag, like I said earlier. You want to see him pay for his atrocities. Overall, I really can't find any flaws here, like at all. Kind of a perfect film here. You can tell that Takashi Miike put a lot of care into this. The camera work is fantastic, and I think that a lot of credit should go to the writers. This is, after all, a very dialogue-driven film, and a weak script would have just brought this down quite a bit. The acting is just top-notch. Everyone carries their weight, but I personally couldn't take my eyes off of Koji Yakusho's portrayal of Shinzaemon, as I said. Just loved it. From here out, when I picture a samurai of any sort, I think I'll think of him. There are numerous action scenes, and the fight choreography is just flawless, and exactly what you want from a movie like this. And like any great epic story, the bulk of the film is a build-up for the final showdown, the boss fight. Seeing the samurai in battle is very cool, the way that, they are not afraid to die, and how they do anything they can to take out as many enemies as they possibly can, especially if they think they're going down, they're going down with a hell of a fight, and they're going to do anything they can to take out as many dudes as they can before they die themselves. And so, especially being, super aware of how outnumbered they are, dying is totally fine as long as they, went down making a difference. I also have to mention the music, because it's also super awesome. It's perfect for this type of movie and is very epic sounding. In ways, it kind of reminded me of the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack, and that's high fucking praise, as anyone would know. It was composed by Koji Endo, a man responsible for many, many soundtracks over the years. In fact, he scored a number of Miike films. I'm giving 13 Assassins a 10 out of 10. If you're wondering why, it's because I just couldn't find any flaws personally. You might be thinking, shouldn't you reserve a 10 for, the top, 50 greatest films of all time? Sure, but I just couldn't find any flaws here. I could not find anything where I needed to take the score down. So it gets a 10, man. Highly recommended to anyone into this kind of thing. Peckinpah and Tarantino fans should find a lot here to enjoy as well. Cheers, guys.